Hi, I'm Kevin Klein. Welcome to another edition of Inside Winnipeg Politics. I'm joined by two of my colleagues at the Winnipeg Sun, Jeff Currier and Professor of Political Science at the University of Manitoba, Royce Coop. We want to talk today about the very exciting, very exciting Liberal race for the next Prime Minister, at least for 48 hours, of Canada. And we've had, I think there's a number of people that are now officially in the race. We know of two, of course, but it certainly seems like anybody who's in the race acts like Justin. They don't even know who Justin Trudeau is. They've never heard of him, for goodness sakes. Surely they've never supported anything that he wanted to do. Royce, am I wrong? Am I reading this wrong? Or as all of a sudden, do these people running for leader of the Liberal Party have a serious case of amnesia?
Yeah, especially if you've been in the cabinet for the last 8 or 9 years while Justin Trudeau just happened to be the prime minister. It seems to be the case that the Liberal Party has convinced itself that its disastrous drop in the polls, just falling into the cellar, is due 100% to Justin Trudeau. And if they can create distance between themselves and the soon-to-be former prime minister, if he can be fully and completely in the rearview mirror, then the party can make a comeback in the next election. We see this from the leading candidates that are running. Mark Carney, really the quintessential insider, is presenting himself as an outsider. Chrystia Freeland, who was Trudeau's finance minister, his most high-profile minister for almost the entirety of the time that he was prime minister, now is trying to create distance between him and emphasizing the fact that she actually did quit the cabinet after 9 years. She quit 2 months ago, or maybe even maybe just a month ago, and so that's what gets attention. I'm not sure. I certainly some of the lack of popularity is due to Trudeau. I'm not sure the extent of it, but we will see. You're right. This definitely is a defining characteristic of this leadership race right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that it's a lot of it is Justin Trudeau. He's the lightning rod for it, but the liberal economic policies have not boded well for Canadians. The Canadians are not better off. Our American neighbors' economy is doing much better than ours. Our unemployment rate is higher. Our disposable income is lower. Their policies just haven't worked for Canadians. So yeah, he's the head guy, but all of these other cabinet ministers, including Chrystia Freeland, including and maybe especially Chrystia Freeland, are also responsible for this. That they were in it, and as Royce pointed out, for Mark Carney to try to portray himself as an outsider, that this is a 5-star lie. Mark Carney is the furthest thing from being an outsider you can possibly get.
Well, then he makes a great politician if he's a five-star liar. I mean, that just puts him in the driver's seat. I find it. I got to be honest. I listened to Freeland. She was here in Winnipeg, and she did some media interviews, and I find it insulting. Actually, I find it insulting from all the candidates that they play this game that they're not associated with Trudeau. All of a sudden, the capital gains tax has to go. The carbon tax is bad. We've got to have this much of a defense against, the Trump administration. Meanwhile, none of them are working right now. They all are focused on on this leadership election. There's a number of MPs that aren't even going to be there anymore that I know are personally in Ottawa cleaning out their offices, getting rid of their apartments. And we're going to continue to pay them for who knows how long while these games are played. And I think, Royce, you get to talk to the youth. You teach the youth at the University of Manitoba. Is this a symptom of Canadians that we just seem to ignore the realities of what's happening in politics? Will Canadians forget when it comes time to vote all about Trudeau because, the political spin will push him under the carpet and blame everything on him? Or are we smarter than that?
Well, the hope is that we're smarter than that, but that seems to be the strategy that these leadership candidates are banking on. I'm not exactly a spring chicken. I've been observing politics for a long time, and even I'm shocked to see how these some of these liberal candidates are turning their backs on the not just the policies of the Trudeau government, the centerpiece policies, the things that defined the Liberal Party and the government for the last several years. They've all turned on the carbon tax, including Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister. And it's quite shocking. I mean, in politics, you spend 8 years of your life fighting for and defending a policy, and then one day you wake up and you've just changed your mind. I mean, what are Canadians supposed to think about that? Do politicians have principles? And if so, how on earth can you justify the kinds of 180s that we're seeing here? I hope Canadians keep that in mind. I hope they remember that into the next election.
Right. I mean, at the risk of sounding like a conservative, I tend to look at results. And I know that's, as somebody once said, liberals talk about intentions, conservatives look at results. And the carbon tax hasn't worked. If the carbon tax had actually helped Canada reduce its carbon footprint, the government would be running ads on every media outlet in the country explaining and touting that very fact. But the fact is, for all of the effort, for all of the money that has been spent administering this thing, that it hasn't worked, that we're not doing any better. It has had negligible impact. So I think we all understand that we have to do our part in terms of fighting climate change. But the carbon tax has been an ineffective tool in fighting that. We have to find a different strategy for doing it. I recall when it was being rolled out, and the Manitoba minister at the time who was responsible for trying to explain it to it was Jim Carr, rest his soul. Lovely man who I very much liked. And I, in my talk radio days, had him on the air with me. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, I had the same feeling that I get when somebody tries to explain cryptocurrency to me, that I couldn't wrap my head around this notion that they were going to take money away from us and then give it all back, and it wasn't going to cost anything to administer, and it was going to reduce Canada's carbon footprint. I couldn't connect those dots, and to this day I can't.
Well, and the fact that, to Royce's point, that not just those running for the leadership of the federal Liberal Party, but the MPs that are in there that all want to get their jobs back are all pretending like this was the worst decision ever, although they fully supported it. They voted for it. They campaigned on it. They followed their leader, if you will, and never brought it up once until now. And I really find it, as I said, I find it insulting, but it scares me because I don't know how many Canadians are paying attention. Because as you said, the carbon tax has failed miserably. It hasn't done anything. And now with Trump
Right.
in the United States reversing all of their environmental policies and objectives and such, if we don't get rid of it, we're doomed.
Right.
We're
But,
going to be in a lot more trouble.
right.
And here we are with they want to get reelected, so now they want to get rid of it. But how do you trust them? I mean, somewhere there's got to be some kind of a line that says, look, you voted for it, you're responsible for it, you have to wear it.
Right.
But it
But
doesn't.
Royce can talk to this, and this speaks to the structure that we have in Canada of how powerful the party leader is. That if you don't go along with the party leader, you're out. And this is true for every one of our major parties, right, Royce? And it's one of the strengths that we have, but it's also one of the failings of Canadian politics is how powerful the leader is, as opposed to, say, the House leader in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just the former cabinet ministers in this race that supported the carbon tax and have now turned against it. Mark Carney, there's video of him saying, big supporter of Trudeau's carbon tax. And not only is he a supporter, but he thought the rate was far too low. You actually had to increase the tax substantially. He's on record saying that. That's coming to a conservative attack ad. And I should also say that as someone, I'm a big fan of principled people being in politics. You know, it wasn't that long ago that the federal Conservative Party was against the carbon tax, and Andrew Scheer, when Aaron O'Toole were the party leader, and people were very hard on this, saying that, well, no, this is the civilized thing to do is to be in favor of carbon pricing, and these troglodyte conservatives are against it. Look at how public opinion and look at how elite opinion has changed in part as a result because the Conservative Party had a strong stand on this and they never wavered. They were always against the carbon tax and they've pulled reality towards them. That's in part how conservatives in this country actually win policy debates. They can be principled, and the carbon tax is a great example of that.
We've got to find a way, especially as media and even hosts of this show, of telling people, look, you have to vote them out. You have to vote, and you have to vote whether you like the party or not. These people don't deserve to be in power after what they've done. But unfortunately, we're going to end up with Trudeau 2.0 after this leadership race in March.